Crabbe, Journal 18. The long walk to the lake was uneventful. It's a little creepy traveling alone in the bush at night, surrounded by varying shades of blackness. The night sounds are spooky, and your own noises, even in a wet forest, seem loud. But I was too bone tired, damp, and cold to think about it. Besides, the last, 48 hours had wrung all my emotions out of me. I just obeyed the compass, ignoring everything else. When I reached the lake, I found the canoe easily. Soon I was back at the campsite. It seemed strange not to be greeted with a loud hello or a laugh as I pulled the boat out of the water and hid it in a habit at out of habit in the usual place. I'm ashamed to say, though, that I did not miss Mary. Though deserted and forlorn, the campsite meant only one thing to me then. I got a fire going quickly and soon had my damp clothing off, hung on sticks around it at a safe distance. Once in the tent, I stuffed one sleeping bag inside another and climbed inside. The warmth was unbelievable, flooding around me, dragging me to sleep. I slept for at least 2 days, rising only to drink water and relieve myself. When I finally did emerge, dressed in the extra clothing that Mary always kept stored in the tent, it was midday, sunny and cold. The first thing I thought of was food. There wasn't much around the campsite. After all, that's why we were on the raid in the first place. But I managed some strong Labrador tea and dried fish. I couldn't pack away another molecule, and out of habit, I took the last cup of tea down to the lake. Then I hit the sack again. I guess my system was back on schedule because I woke at dawn. After making up the fire, I made a trip to the bush and recovered one of Mary's food caches. She had taken a variety of food, smoked fish, jerky, berries, tubers, and stuff, and packed it all in a bundle that would last her a month. After wrapping the bundle in plastic to waterproof it, she'd hang it in a tree at the edge of the campsite. I'd helped her all summer, and there were 9 or 10 of them around. After breakfast, I threw some pieces of fat, some jerky, and chopped up lily root into a little pot and put the pot on a low fire. The stew would be for supper. I sat there for a while, tending the fire, adding sticks until the water boiled, then banking the fire so as to give a steady, simmering heat. And what do you know? I waited for them. But the tears wouldn't come. I tried to cry, thought of all the good times we'd had, the things we'd done together, but nothing would come. There I was, dressed in her clothing. Everything I was doing was the result of her teaching. The fact I was alive at all due to her courage, and I couldn't even cry for her. Dry eyes were my thanks. I was disgusted with myself. But then, that was a stupid notion. I loved her. In fact, at that moment, I felt she was the only person I had ever loved. Maybe tears didn't prove anything. I began to think about Mary rather than the fact she was dead. What did I know of her? Almost nothing. And yet everything I needed to know. Her approximate age, her physical appearance, the play of many emotions across her strong, beautiful features, a little bit about her personality. She was the only female I know who was a person to me. As soon as I thought about her, I remembered the canvas canoe pack she kept hidden in the bush. Would it give me the answers to the million questions I asked myself every day? What was in her past? What was a beautiful, intelligent woman doing hiding in the bush for over a year? Who was she? My curiosity soared again. I had to see that pack's contents. I didn't feel I'd be betraying her. There was no need for secrecy now. And that, strangely, was what did it. As soon as I thought of that thought, that the campsite would be discovered now and it didn't matter, the tears came. And soon I was on my knees in the dirt, hunched over the cheery little fire, racked with deep, tearing sobs that came from way down inside me. But when they say your heart breaks, I know what they mean. Something had been torn away, leaving empty pain. The sun was directly overhead in a cold sky by the time I found the pack under a big spruce tree that had skirt so low it brushed the ground. The hiding place was pretty close to the campsite, so I figured it would be. Having logged the pack to the fireside, I left it alone while I checked the stew and made some tea. I filled the pipe and smoked for a bit. Then I opened the pack, crying a little as I did so. Over the next couple of days, I pieced together what I could about Mary's life before her escape. I had to use a lot of detective work on the letters, pictures, magazine, and newspaper articles, documents, and other stuff I found. There were many false starts, too. I want to tell this so it makes sense rather than just write down an inventory of the contents. Mary was a university professor. She went to the University of Toronto, McMaster, Harvard. There she got a Doctor of Philosophy degree in history. Then she became an assistant prof at Laurentian University. I read the published articles in the pack, and I gather she was a left-winger and environmentalist. She seemed to think society was sick, out of touch with itself, was a phrase in one article. Society was like a living creature that had picked up an illness, so the organism had to throw lots of its resources into fighting the illness. That threw the whole organism out of whack until either the organism died or the illness died. I didn't understand the whole essay. There was lots of stuff in it about misusing the environment and wasting resources and so on. She didn't say everything was wrong, I don't mean that, but the wrong things had importance and the wrong people had control. There were quite a few articles on historical questions, too. Pretty boring stuff. But she was one smart woman, I'll tell you. But she wasn't cold smart. I've met a lot of people who, at different times, and most of them seem standoffish, unemotional, as if when their brains grew, they pushed all the feeling out of the way. And most seem to think that showing feeling was some kind of weakness. Most of the smart people my father dragged home were boring snobs. He wanted me to be like that. Mary wasn't like that at all. She always seemed to know what I was feeling, and she cared about that. Oh, she didn't treat me like I was glass or anything like that. How sometimes she told me off and didn't hold back. But she could do that because I knew she cared about me, not my clothes or money, not my high marks at school or my father's job or where I lived. Me. I had never met anyone that made me feel necessary. Not important, necessary. I mattered to her. What I mean is, Mary was a tremendously wise, smart woman who didn't come across a dried up old intellectual. Anyhow, to continue, Mary was married. I found some pictures of her husband, just an ordinary guy with a thin face, black hair, and big, sad, dark eyes. He worked at the same university doing research in physics. She had a whole stack of his degrees, too, along with a bunch of articles I couldn't understand. But there was one little book he wrote, No Nukes is Good Nukes, which was a humorous attack on nuclear arms and had some serious questions about nuclear power stations. I guess he and Mary were activists. There were some buttons in the pack with slogans on them, anti-nuclear. As I said, I pieced all this together over a couple of days, days that were hard on my emotions, full of crying fits and depression. But one thing still threw me. I knew lots more about her, but I still didn't know what the hell she was doing in the middle of nowhere. Now the mystery was even greater. Why leave all that behind? I went back through all the stuff, rereading everything more carefully. I had just skimmed it before. Gradually, the background is filled in. It was while I was flipping through a copy of a university quarterly that I found something new. A couple of newspaper clippings fell out from between the pages. I opened them up, realizing that I hadn't seen them the first time round. Physics professor injured in demonstration. The report said that Mary's husband, who was taking part in an anti-nuclear demonstration at the provincial government building, had been jostled from a crowded sidewalk into the path of a taxi. He had been seriously injured and rushed to a hospital. The other articles, written a couple days later, gave a follow up on the march and mentioned in passing that the injured professor was on the critical list and doctors were afraid he would die. If he lived, he'd be totally paralyzed and mentally deficient, since the injuries were to his head and his spine. He was on life support machines. The report ended with an opinion that if people would only stay in their home rather than take part in radical protests, that sort of thing wouldn't happen. Well, I knew where he was, anyways. He must have died. I mean, a person like Mary certainly wouldn't leave him in the hospital, plugged onto machines, and ran off into the bush. Their old letters made it clear that they loved each other very much, and I'm ashamed to admit I felt a little jealous about that. But all that still didn't get me much further ahead, did it? If he had died, why run away? She wasn't on any holiday, that was for sure. She was hiding. It didn't seem possible that she was a crook or a spy. Finally, I gave up, totally frustrated. I'd invested a few rainy, cold, dreary autumn days in getting to know her past. I couldn't see that I would find out anything more. Methodically, because I knew she would want me to, I burned everything in the pack in my morning fire. It was a strange feeling. I was pretty upset, crying and sniffing all through, feeding the memories of two lives into the flames, two important lives, two decent people who loved each other and certainly others, and were good at spreading their love around. He must have been like that. They lived their lives looking beyond themselves, which is more than I've ever done. Now they were dead. Life isn't fair, it isn't even logical. That was one of her favorite expressions, I thought, as I tore her letters into shreds and gave them to the fire. Life isn't fair, Crabbe, she'd say whenever I was in the middle of one of my complaining fits. She wouldn't say it sarcastically, just stated it like a thought that had occurred to her. The first time it came out was just a couple of weeks after I had come to her. I was going hell bent in a tirade against my phony parents and stupid teachers and boring life, all that crap. We'd been swimming and were sitting on a huge granite slab that rose out of the water near our campsite, letting the hot sun dry us. When I stopped for breath, she said, Look, Grumpy, you've got a family, a house to live in, a place to make your mind and body grow, money to do some interesting things, parents who care about you, in spite of what you say. What the hell do you want? Jam on it? I laughed without wanting to. I had a great aunt who used that old expression as often as she could. No, don't laugh, kiddo, she said seriously, getting up, wound up like she always did when she was trying to make a point. Look, whose life is it, anyways? Mine. Okay, so if it's not a life you like, who should fix it? I was trapped. I've been running through my blame list as I often did when I was depressed or unhappy, which then was most of the time. I guess I should, I said, but never mind, guess, she interrupted. It's a fat crap. Waiting around for someone to change your life for you is a loser's game. Who's going to do it? You're not a child, remember? And if some fairy godmother did offer to take on the job, how could she possibly get it right? Only you know what you want. She'd fail. And that just give you somebody else to blame. She paused for a breath and continued. You know what I think, Crab? I think a person reaches maturity when he strikes the last name off the blame list. We talked some more about all that. The sun on our skin, the beauty of the day made it hard to be ambitious. Then she said it. Well, life isn't fair, Crab, but trying to build a life of significance, despite the unfairness, can be exciting. I don't mean soft or easy or contented, I mean excited. Philosophers might give that attitude a fancy title like existentialism. A life without fairness is always worth living. A life without significance isn't. Who decides what is significant? I asked. Whose life is it? All this I remembered as I sat by the fire on a somber day, feeding the last shreds of the paper in the flames. Then wham, it hit me. She had killed her husband. As soon as the thought hit me, I was certain of it. I don't know what you think of mercy killing. I don't know what I think of it either. But a lot of people are against it, and so is the law. Mary knew that. She took her husband's life and the rest of her own into her own hands. She committed murder, merciful murder, then ran away. I pictured her visiting him, standing beside the bed when it was starched white linen, talking to the wasted man who had no idea of her presence. I saw her kiss him softly on his pale forehead, then do something to the machines that kept him in a world he should have been allowed to leave with dignity. It was coming on dark by the time all this was figured out and all the possessions were burned. It was getting dark very early these days. Knowing the answers about her didn't make me feel any better, but it made me admire her more, knowing she had had the courage to do that. God, how I wish she was with me.